Welcome back to Wise Words with SJ. That's me. This is a show where we talk about things that you want me to talk about, where you could send in questions. It's topics that are in the world today above everything else. This is a show today about grief recovery, the loss of a parent, an animal, a sibling, a relationship, because we've all lost somebody at one time or another, and we will continue. Oh, and this is a very tough subject for me because I've lost a number of important people in my life, starting with my father, who was a typical Damon Runyon character. What I mean about that? If you've ever seen Guys and Dolls, all the characters that hung around Broadway were Damon Runyon characters. They always had a name. Larry the Lip, Cadillac Joe. Didn't matter who they were. Sky Masterson. My dad was Jack the Pan or Cowboy Jack because he always wore a cowboy hat and cowboy outfits. That was my dad. So he used to live with my son and I when I became a single parent. And he used to come home and, hang out. Then he'd go to Vegas. He'd come back. Anyway, one day he didn't come home. And I thought, okay, well, he's out gallivanting around. I'm not going to worry about him. Well, 3 weeks later, he still didn't show. And I called his hangout, was in Westwood. He used to hang out with Rabbi Stolman of Chabad, and they used to play cards every day. My dad loved to play cards, and they told me that he was dead and he had died, and I was like in shock. I screamed. I was in an office. I just screamed so loud because my father was gone, and I didn't know where they buried him. Come to find out, he was buried in the Chabad cemetery in the city of Commerce, since I know where he's buried now. That was March 23rd, 1992. And it just changed my world. I lost my daddy. He was my hero. Oh, what a terrible year that was. And then I lost my bubby, my grandma, 6 months later. Yet another person that meant the world to me. Oh my God, my life was over, I felt. Because my father and my grandmother were my confidants. I could talk to them about anything. I couldn't talk to my mother the same way. I didn't have the same kind of relationship with my mother that I had with my grandmother, my bubby, or my father. I could tell my father anything, and Daddy, I made a mistake. He'd say, don't worry about it. Everybody makes mistakes. That's why they have erasers on pencils. I love that expression. The grief was unending. I felt like, who am I going to go to talk about everything or anything with? I just didn't know where to turn. I had no idea what to do. So I was advised, which really helped me, to go to a grief recovery workshop. And what it taught me was that I had to complete a timeline to find out if my father or grandmother, Bubby, was still alive. What would they have done, or what would they have become as a part of my life? And then my brother passed. That was the worst. I swear to God, I have lost more people that I have loved in the last 25, 30 years than I can even imagine. He passed unexpectedly. He was an architect. He was in the Army. He was a Vietnam War vet. He was my hero as well, and he died unexpectedly in 2010. That was another thing. So all we can do is experience the grief, and that's okay. You have to let yourself grieve, because if you don't, it's going to take over your life in many different ways you don't even know. It'll affect you emotionally, psychologically, every way. So experience it. Experience the grief. You miss that person. My brother was my best friend. They used to call us the Jewish twins because we looked so much alike. We were 17 months apart. We were each other's best friend. We ran around all together, especially when we were young. My father was my best friend. My bubby, my grandmother was my best friend, and I could do no wrong with any of them. And so I had to let myself grieve, let myself experience, and just sit in the grief. Learn about the grief, because grief is an important part of life. We think we're all going to live forever. Well, we're not. And even with my animals, same thing. You know, I've lost a number of animals, cats. I'm a cat person. I've lost 2 or 3 cats over the years. And I have an aging cat now, and I know there's going to come a time when I have to let him go. Letting go of someone is very difficult, but we need to experience it. We need to allow ourselves to grieve for as long as we need to grieve. And I hate when people say, isn't it about time that you stop grieving? Who are you to tell me that I have to stop grieving? I'll stop grieving when I need to stop grieving, when I stop grieving, when I don't need you to tell me that. Oh, just think they're in a better place. How do we know they're in a better place? Huh? We don't know that. We don't know anything about that. It's just people try and console you, and I don't think that's the right way to console people that have lost people. You know, just be there with love. I understand how you feel. I can relate to what you're saying and what you feel. I can relate to the fact that you've lost this person you've been with for most of your life, and how much you love them and how much they loved you, because they loved you. They loved you and you loved them, and you need to experience that with them. I'm tearing up because I just see my father and my bubby and my brother all together. I just see them now in front of me. And I understand. I still grieve for them. I know if my father was still alive, he'd be going gambling. Have a good time. My bubby would be baking and cooking. And my brother would be hanging around smoking cigarettes. I know. I miss seeing them. And it's okay to miss them. It's okay if you miss them, you know, because it's called unconditional love. I unconditionally love you. I want you to love yourself the way they loved you. Be your own father. Be your own bubby. Be your own brother or sister. Just let the warmth and the love surround you, because I know you need it. I know you need it, and I love you. I love you unconditionally. That's right. I really do, because I see you. I see who you are. You are just somebody that needs a lot of love. Allow yourself to just be in that love. You know, let it surround you. Let it be a part of you, you know? And don't let other people tell you you can't grieve, because that's none of their business. I hope I've helped you today. I know you've helped me, you know. And grief, recovering from grief, is a long process. There's no time limit on that. So, and by the way, you know, the next episode we're going to have is about hoarding. I know a lot about that. And cleanliness, very important. So I hope you'll come back tomorrow and watch the next episode of Wise Words with SJ. And I love you. And please email me at wisewords@jltv.tv, and I'll answer all your questions, whether you like it or not.